Hey, how are you? Well, I'm going to make another bee feeder today, and that's because the original one that I made, it's just a little too small. The bees empty those jars out at least once a day, so I've got these larger pickle jars that should do the trick. Now, I don't really know very much about beekeeping. I know a heck of a lot more than I did 6 months ago, but basically, I've got a couple of websites and channels that I check out all the time, and one is the place where I got this bee feeding design. That's Philip Chandler. He has a website called BioBees that I look at from time to time. He also has a book, and he has a design on that site for Top Bar Hive, and I'll put a link to his not his channel, but his website in the description. Another person I found to be really helpful is Sam Comfort. He just knows what he's talking about. He's been keeping bees, naturally keeping bees, I think for about a decade. And he's worked on both sides of the business, meaning the heavy commercial beekeeping business, and now just doing it for himself. I say just doing it, I think he has like 500 hives. But anyway, you can check him out too. I'll put a link in the description to his site. And one other helpful site is Out of a Blue Sky. I'll put a link to his channel. And he's got just a lot of great videos. And in fact, I'll probably use one of his videos to help me build a swarm catcher sometime in the near future. So let's just go ahead. We'll take a quick look at the hive, get the old bee feeder out of the hive because I need it for the angles for the new one, and get started. All right, well, that's always a little scary. It didn't used to be. I was getting really comfortable with the bees up until last week when I got stung 3 times. One in the lip, one in the nose, and one in the, actually this one hurt the most, one in the forearm. But that was my own fault because I sort of went out there to feed the bees, and next thing you know, I was sort of taking the hive apart, and I was just wearing a short sleeve shirt, and I guess I bothered them. But I'm trying to get back on the horse. That's why I'm not suiting up for just doing this little project here. But so anyway, you can see that the other jars here are much smaller than these pickle jars. So I've got a piece of 1/2-inch plywood, and I'll need to cut out 2 holes so I can hold the jars just like this. I've already cut out one of the holes, and this can happens to be the perfect diameter for the jar. So I'll trace this with a pencil. And then I'll drill a hole so I can get the jigsaw started. I've used the old feeder to find the angle, and now I'll cut the new one. This is another tip from Phil Chandler, and that's to use a thumbtack to poke holes in the lid, and that seems to be the perfect size for letting the sugar syrup out. And basically you need about maybe 6 or 8 holes. The sugar syrup mixture is 1 container of sugar and then an equal container of water. Oh, this is a good time to point this out. Bees need water, and I've got a little lid here to a 2-gallon bucket, and when I turn the water on and off, a little bit drips down onto that bucket, and the bees visit this all day. Well, I left the door open, and now I've got a lot of bees out here in the barn. But I'll shut the lights off and leave the door open, and the bees will fly out. But I think that those pickle jars will last a lot longer than these little jelly jars. And just sort of an interesting fact, the bees really weren't eating that much of the sugar syrup in the spring, and it's not really until recently that they started to eat so much. And I'm assuming that there's just not as much flowers in bloom as there are in the spring. So that's something to look into and maybe find something out about. Anyway, now it's Sunday, and usually I do some kind of an art thing on Sunday. So I did work on a little painting this morning. So let's go upstairs and take a look at it. If you're not into the art thing, this is a good time to cut out. But I think that it's always good to learn something new. So let's go take a look. I think maybe one of the most difficult things for painters, especially painters who are just starting out, is not knowing what to paint. And the fact is, it doesn't really matter as long as you're painting. If you continue to paint, you'll get better at painting, you'll understand color more. And also looking at paintings, it's really important to look at a lot of good artists. And that's so easy to do today because you can just go online and search different artists and look at their paintings. So, for instance, this little painting here, it's a painting of a butterfly bush. And I went out this morning to feed the bees and cut a few flowers from the butterfly bush with the idea of painting them. Now, I also was thinking right off the bat of the artist Milton Avery, because Milton Avery, maybe more than most artists, at least artists that I can think of, would use this sort of purple lavender color in his paintings. And so I had seen the flowers this week, and I thought that's kind of a good exercise. I don't really use that color, so why not go ahead and try to make that little painting. So I made this painting, and I like the painting, and that's really all that matters, that I like it and that the exercise of painting it was beneficial. I'll understand the color combinations when I go to make my next painting, whether that's a painting like this or some kind of a graphic painting. It's as long, you know, it's that side of your brain is just always working. So I guess long story short, I like to mention an artist. Last week I mentioned Matisse, and this week I'm talking about Milton Avery. So I think if you want to get more familiar with artists and painters and train your own eye, that would be a good artist to take a look at. Just Google Milton Avery into the into the search engine, and you'll be able to find a lot of paintings on him. His wife, Sally Mitchell, was also a painter and a very similar style. And in fact, there's, it kind of makes you wonder who came first. Was it Sally Mitchell or was it Milton Avery? But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you soon.